Hello everyone and welcome to Medicated Housewife DIY where crafting and mental health come together. My name is Sarah. In today's DIY video, we are making this stunning wood tray using jumbo craft sticks, tumbling tower blocks, and foam board with supplies from Dollar Tree and other low-cost options. This rich, warm, and colorful wood tray is perfect for rustic and modern decor styles. You could use it decoratively on a table or in your living room or basically anywhere in your home. It's a super low-cost and easy DIY that packs a big punch, and you're gonna love it. So stick around, let's go make some stuff and jump right into this. To begin with, I got a piece of white foam board from Dollar Tree and I cut it using an X-Acto knife into the shape of a hexagon, which is a six-sided shape. Each of the sides of my hexagon measured about 5.5 inches. I'm going to be using 15 of these jumbo craft sticks. Now, I got these at Home Depot. They call them quart stir sticks and they come in a pack for about $1.50. You can also find these jumbo sized craft sticks for pretty cheap at Amazon. I'll link them for you in the description box below. I'm going to be using my miter shears to cut the wooden craft sticks because they need to be cut at an angle, and this is the tool to use because it cuts angles in thin pieces of wood and dowels and stuff like that. I'll link it for you below. The first thing I did was to cover the raw edges of my foam board with the paper masking tape that I got from Dollar Tree. I like to cover the edges whenever I use foam board to disguise the fact that I'm using foam board. It's easy to paint right over it when you paint the foam board and the edges. It makes the whole thing look a lot more put together. The geometric pattern that I'm making out of these craft sticks requires them to be cut at an angle. I pinpointed the middle of my hexagon and I tried to line up my first 3 sticks pointing toward the middle point. That will be the beginning of the pattern. Through trial and error, I figured out that 45 degrees was my magic number for the angle for both sides of each craft stick. So I was cutting each stick a little bit over 5.5 inches long end to end, and they needed to be angle cut on both sides to fit into this pattern. So these miter shears have several different numbered settings on them, and 45 degrees is one of them. So I set my miter shears at 45 degrees and I used the first couple of sticks that I had already cut as a template to mark my cutting lines with pencil so that I would know where to cut each of the rest of the craft sticks. I needed 15 sticks to complete the pattern, but you know me, and I did cut several extra just in case. And cutting these sticks with the shears, it is not a complicated thing in any way. The angle is set up for you. It's really pretty automatic. However, you need to know that either I have the weakest hands in the world or these shears are really hard to cut through stuff. Like, a lot of effort needs to go into cutting through even these really thin sticks. You can see on the video how I had to use a lot of strength for most of them, and the pieces do tend to fly. So also protect your eyes while you're doing this. Now, I was able to cut them all, and the few that I just could not get the miter shear blade all the way through, I was able to kind of snap the ends of the sticks off in that section that the blade had partially cut. So all in all, I was able to cut everything that I needed, but I don't know if I should be embarrassed saying this or what, but I swear the next day my actual hands were killing me. Like, they really hurt, no joke. Is that something that happens to you guys as well? Let me know in the comments if you struggle to use these shears like this also, or you can just say, no, Sarah, you're just really weak. It's okay, I won't be offended. After I cut all the sticks, I gave all the edges a quick sand with my Dollar Tree sanding block. I just tried to get rid of any sharp, jagged edges and smooth them all out a bit. And just an FYI, after having all those tiny pieces of wood craft stick go flying. And after sanding them all, I cleaned up the big scraps of wood, obviously, but I used this little mini vacuum that I just got and I love. It's this silly little USB charged vacuum for your desk and your workspace. Got it on a whim. It was pretty cheap, and I'm finding it really comes in handy. It's just an FYI. If you're interested, I'll drop a link below. My pattern has 3 sections with 5 wood sticks in each of the 3 sections. So that's 15 sticks altogether. I am going to use 5 different colors in the pattern, so I need 3 sticks of each color, plus some extra because you never know. The first color I chose to use was a whitewashed wood look, so I took some plain water, mixed in a little bit of this apple barrel acrylic white matte paint, and I applied it to the front of 3 of the sticks. I used a damp baby wipe to rub off any of the excess paint, and I definitely wanted to see the white, but I also really wanted to make sure the wood grain came through too. So I was pretty pleased with the color that I was able to get. The next color I used was this Varathane wood stain in the color Golden Oak. I'll link it for you below. I applied this pretty generously, and I used a dry paper towel to wipe off all of the excess. I was actually surprised how nicely the wood grain was coming through on these sticks. I mean, considering their price, they are probably made of a very low quality wood, I think. So I didn't expect that they would take the stain as nicely as they did, but I was pleasantly surprised. The next color I used was Varathane wood stain in the color Ipswich Pine, which is a really nice warm toned color. And I stained 3 of my wood sticks with that, and I think I did 1 extra too. The next color I used was Varathane wood stain in the color American Walnut. And I like this color because it's a little different than what I would normally use. It's got more of a red tone to it, but without it being too purpley, if you know what I mean. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of that burgundy purplish red on my wood, but that's just me. I don't judge. Whatever you like, you be you. The final color I used was my favorite, the Minwax Jacobean, which is kind of my go-to. It is just a perfect deep brown color. It's perfect for all of your wood. Truly, I have more than 1 wood table in my home that's stained with Jacobean, and it's really a staple in my house. So to make the sidewalls for my tray, I decided to use the Tumbling tower blocks from Dollar Tree. And the first thing I had to do was to make the corner pieces for my tray. So I needed to cut 6 sets of 2 blocks on an angle, and I realized right away that the 45-degree angle setting was too much of an angle to make a hexagon shape. That's really what you would use to make square or rectangle corners, and I probably would have found that out quicker if I had paid any attention in geometry class, but I didn't, so it was trial and error. Anyway, I ended up using the 60-degree setting for my tray corners, and I cut 6 sets of corners at 60 degrees. And let me just say that if I thought cutting the craft sticks was tough, it was nothing compared to cutting the Jenga blocks with these miter shears. Let me tell you, this was a craft workout, just saying. I also had to do some straight cuts on the Jenga blocks to make some smaller pieces. Those were to fit into the leftover spaces on some of my tray sides, because even though I did measure, in the end, not every side was exactly the same, but that's okay. It's crafting. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to make you happy. I took my corner cut pieces, my smaller cut pieces, and a handful of uncut Jenga blocks, and I stained them all using my Minwax Jacobean. I told you it was my favorite. I gave them all a nice coat of color and wiped them off with a paper towel. I also dropped a block into the can of stain, and it splashed onto the sleeve of the shirt I was wearing. So here's a question for you guys. I tried everything to get that stain out of my shirt. It is not a big stain, it's just 2 large dots on the sleeve. I tried that amazing spray from Dollar Tree, and I tried Dawn dish soap. Nothing worked. So please, if you have any secret recipes for getting wood stain out of clothes, please let me know in the comments below. I loved that shirt. Thank you. Once the blocks were dry, I used my Tight Bond wood glue and I pre-glued all the corner pieces so they would already be glued and dried before I started to assemble the tray sides. And I know you only see 5 corners there that were glued. There was a 6th. It turned up later. Don't worry, I can count usually. At this point, I'm ready to start gluing down my pattern to the foam board tray base. So I tried a couple of different color variations before I decided on the final one, which is basically the lightest color sticks in the middle, with the colors getting gradually darker as they go outward. You can do this any way you like. You could do dark going into light. You could mix them up. I mean, that's completely up to you. So I line up my middle lightest 3 sticks so that they will meet up at the middle point in my hexagon that I put a little pencil mark in. And once I've secured the position, I used my wood glue to glue those 3 sticks down. Next, I take my second lighter color, which is the golden oak, and I place those sticks next to the whitewashed sticks, and I glue them down when they're properly placed. The third color is the Ipswich Pine, and those 3 are placed next to the golden oak sticks, and then they're glued down as well. And the fourth color to be glued down is the American Walnut color. Lastly is the darkest color, which is the Jacobine, and like I said before, there is no rule with color variation. You can mix up the colors or even use totally different stains. You do it however you like, whatever makes you happy. I wanted to make a note that you can see on the video that my sides and edges where all the sticks finish are not perfect. And in some cases, they don't line up neatly at all, and that's okay. We can disguise a lot of that with the side walls, and we'll cover up a lot of those imperfections so that you won't see them. I use Tight Bond wood glue to glue my Jenga blocks to the sides of the tray. The blocks are positioned sort of half on and half off the edge of the wood sticks that are on the bottom of the tray. That way, the blocks make it easier to hide some of the unevenness of some of those edges. I begin with gluing down one of the pre-glued corner pieces, and I work my way out from there, adjusting the corners as I go along. I use those cut pieces of Jenga block to fit into some of those leftover spaces on the sides that are too small for a full block. And in some cases, I need to use my miter shears to straight cut some of those pieces to make them even smaller so that they'll fit into the open spaces on the side walls. I did have plenty of pre-stained blocks on hand so that I could use them to cut pieces off whenever and wherever it was necessary. Off camera, I painted the back of the foam board and the sides of the foam board, the edges, with Waverly Antique Wax so that it would just blend in with all of the wood on top of it. And this is how my Rustic craft stick DIY tray turned out. Even though I don't feel like this tray represents my personal tastes, I think it's very high-end looking. I think it's an impressive piece of decor. To me, it's rustic, but it's also kind of modern looking too. So I guess we'd call it modern rustic. I like the different colors. They make it more whimsical looking and they give it depth and visual interest. I personally love trays, like all trays. I mean, I have so many different styles and kinds of trays just lurking around my house. Trays are decorative, but they're also very functional, which makes them the perfect thing to DIY. And honestly, I don't have any hexagon trays in my vast tray collection, so I am pretty excited about this one. This was a simple DIY using like $2 worth of supplies, and for $2, I think it's super stylish and chic. But I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this tray. Would you want to make one? Would you use a different kind of color story for it? Is it modern? Is it rustic? Or is it something else? I want to hear from you. I hope you enjoyed this Medicated Housewife DIY, and if you did, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing. It really helps out my channel. Once again, Thanks for watching. And until next time, I'm the Medicated Housewife, and crafting is my medication.